So on this second part, which is picking right off from from the first part, I would like to pick up from where we left off on the first part about your collaboration with Fearless on this Dawn. So just from like the very beginning, like who approached who when it comes to this
I
Dawn?
approach Fearless.
Okay, so did you like ask Fearless directly, or did you know you want to work with Fearless?
Yeah, like I had an idea, which
Okay,
was to tune my own IEM,
right.
and the Y2K system was the perfect in.
Mm-hmm. And you
Yeah,
knew about that system before you went into this collaboration because you want to tune this Y2K system,
purely
right?
because of the Y2K system.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And you have your curve, and you did explain, your curve, in an article. So without going in too much into detail, like explain that your preference target curve to the audience here.
Um, you could say that it's modified from Harman, but at the same time, there are a lot of elements that are quite different from Harman. The main similarity would be the 200 hertz bass rise. So I had experimented with the bass rise to be a little bit earlier and a little bit later at 300 hertz as well as 150 hertz. At 300 hertz, I realized that the mid bass was a bit too much, and at 150 hertz, I realized that the bass was not very satisfying. So there was that middle ground. The 200 hertz rise was basically the middle ground in which I liked it. Then we move into the lower mids, and then you have the Harman target curve, which has a recession in the lower mids at about 200 300 hertz. I feel that this results in thin mids, and even making the mids flat is not enough. So I require that the lower mids be bumped up to about one decibel. And while 1 decibel may sound like very insignificant, I feel like this is a very important distinction to make. This 1 decibel is very, very important to me. And then you have the pinna gain. The pinna gain means that it's the emphasis between 1,000 hertz all the way up to maybe 5,000 hertz. It means that because of your ears are bypassing, sorry, it means that your IEMs are bypassing your ears. Uh, the IEMs need to be reproducing the resonances that your ears may have missed out.
Okay.
So this pinna gain would be quite high on the Harman target. It'll be like 10 decibels, I believe, or maybe even more than that. I only require 7. And that's like 7 at the highest point. It goes back down to like 5. And then it goes smooth treble down all the way down. But it has to be well extended. There should not be any weird dips anywhere down there.
Right,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, that's about it. That's my preference target, which is different from my neutral target. Neutral means that it sounds flat
Right.
at all frequencies.
Right,
Yeah,
and this is obviously your preference. I'd like not if we're not going duh enough. Like this is what
yeah.
you
Which is why I named it the
right,
critical preference target.
right,
It's
like a
not
duh.
the preference
You're
target.
right. And you did approach Fearless, and you did work with Lineso as a translator, with this Y2K system in mind, and you touch up on your article. If people want to read more about it, they can read about your little Y2K system article about your Dawn article about. But there
Mhm.
are two variations of the Y2K system. Can you explain
Yes.
a little bit about those?
It's Y2KG and Y2KJ. Y2KG is a 10BA system, and Y2KJ is an 8BA 2AST system. Yeah.
So what was your first choice when it comes to like tuning your which one did
Oh,
you
I mean, definitely the 10BA system because everyone knows that I hate the Sonian electrostatic
yes, of
drive.
course you are famous for
Mm.
saying those things are not very
I stand by that statement, and Dawn does not
right,
change that. Yeah.
right.
But unfortunately, I could not tune the 10BA system to my target, but I could with the Y2KJ, with the ESD system. And
And
that's why we went with that.
right. And talk to me about this little back and forth between you and Fearless, right? I'm saying that they like how many iteration have you gone through? Like you tune this, you tell them the value, and they send it back to you, say no, and you
Uh,
tune it again. How long has this been?
okay, it's the only thing that I have with me is 2 prototypes.
Okay.
So there's only the first prototype, and
Hmm.
there's a final prototype. So all in
Okay.
all, if you're talking about iterations, there's really only one iteration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how
Because
long did it?
okay, I'll let you know the process. I think I've mentioned this in my article as well. The process was that I didn't want Fearless to send me very like bad prototypes. So because of that, I just told them like, you know what, give me your measurements, and then I'll interpret them for you. And then they did, and I told them like, all right, you need to raise this region. I remember the region that I required to raise was the 5 to 7K regions, and in a lot of it, in their own iterations, they would consistently try and raise it, but they keep raising the regions like 1K to 4K, which is not what I wanted. So I just told them, just focus on this. I beg you, just this region. Not don't touch anything else, just this region. And
Right,
they did it. They
right, and
actually did it.
it's not a painless project. So like just like looking back at this, how long did it take you from asking him for the collaboration between actually releasing? How long was that development
In the
collaboration?
context of IEM development,
Hmm.
it was ridiculously fast.
But
I
just how long did it take?
Yeah. So I forget when I took the Y2K unit. I think it might be end of January, maybe. Yeah. And then the product got released mid-March.
But now that you release this product and you release and people kind of have this question of that. Well, as you mentioned, the two Y2K system is either 10BA or 8BA plus 2 EST. But this final version of your IEM is 6BA plus 2 EST. So
Mhm.
what happened there?
I don't know what exactly the processes are behind the scenes. All I know is that maybe Fearless thought that a different circuitry would have worked out better. So they removed two drivers and they got themselves the 6P 2A system that we have right now. I'm not too privy with the details. Honestly, I don't really care about the details. Only that I'm the man who believes in the ends justify the means to a certain extent.
Well, I like how you say the end justify the means, right? But it's funny that you said that because you have you yourself because obviously you're going to be biased because you is attached to this IEM. But I
Mhm.
feel like the only thing that you have written about your IEM in your website is more of like this backpedaling part about you, the only thing you're involved with is this tuning and the name, and Fearless really have the rest of the control. I feel like I can't help but feel that you're being strong armed into this, like
Mhm.
releasing this unfinished product, if you don't mind me calling it that.
Mhm.
Is that
Okay. My question with this, my question back to you would be, uh, the concept of backpedaling would be that I had proposed something in the beginning, and then I took it back. So in this case, what would you say that I'm backpedaling on? What have I
I'm saying
stated
that you're
about the dawn
compromising.
in
Like
which
the only thing that you have wrote in your article is just you and your compromises, right?
yeah,
This is
again,
supposed to be a
I have to
collaboration.
again, I have to ask you the question: what am I backpedaling on? Have I stated that the dawn would be something, and
Well,
then
yes, of course.
I
You
said
have
that it was
not.
something else at the end?
Well, you have not publicly stated, but it's a name that you attach. It's a thing that you attach your name to, and obviously, I
Okay.
don't care about. Of course, you yourself publicly have not said anything about the IEM in terms of its performances, but I think people have this expectations, right? And then
Okay.
I'm not talking about you. You, of course,
Right.
not
No,
saying
I'm just clarifying because again,
right, of
when
course,
you just specifically use
but
the word backpedaling,
but then you
so you can understand why I'm focusing on that word.
fine,
So
but then you
what am
release
I backpedaling on?
because this public perception. I'm talking about public perception as
I,
how we feel.
again, I don't care about public perception. You have to tell me if with the moment you have said that I've backpedaled on something, I must have done something first. I must have said something first, and then retracted that statement maybe by by saying something else afterwards.
How about this?
That's the
The
concept of
design of your
backpedaling.
IEM, you tune the Y2K, and when Fearless said we can't tune it, you say, all right, let's do the 6BA and 2 ESD. Isn't that a compromise, maybe backpedaling? Your version is to tune the Y2K on the 6BA 2E stats driver. You tune it perfectly. You send it to Fearless, and they say it cannot be done. They force you to make a compromise there. Is that not backpedaling to you?
I
That
would
you
say it's not
compromise
really.
with Fearless?
Again, I don't think it's false because I had every right to just refuse the design or like refuse to release this. The Dawn. Like
And what is
the reason why it had released in the first place is because I had given the product the green light. So it wasn't really like they forced me to do it. I just thought that it was a decent compromise.
and they
And
didn't
again,
force you to do it,
yeah,
but
and
you're
again, the
still.
compromise is me doing a compromise is not me backpedaling on anything because I had not stated anything about the Dawn before even releasing it. So I don't get the question. You say
But the thing
you
is that
said
you
that
kept
it's
taking
backpedaling.
compromises
I've
after
never said
compromises.
anything about the Dawn before that. So again, you're free to use a different word. I I
Compromises.
don't think the word
Would you like me to
backpedaling is
use
the
the word
hill that you should
compromise?
die on.
Would you like me to use the word compromises? That you keep compromising
Compromises
on
is
quality of
is
your
the
IEM?
perfect word to use it. All right,
Fine, let's use the
let's
word
move on to
compromise.
okay. Yes.
And the fact that you would prefer to use the 10BA, and you found out it was not doable on the 10BA Y2K. You
Uh-huh.
compromised with Fearless
Yes.
by using the 8+2 Y2K system, and you tuned that perfectly
Yes.
to your target curve. Is that correct? And then
Yeah.
you send that to them, and they say it cannot be. And then again, you compromise once again to let
Yes.
them release a 6+2, which is pretty
hmm
much. And tell me again, how does that just not a retune land?
The whole
That was
process
the.
is okay. Okay. I will answer your last question first with regards to the Lancelot. The reason why it's not a retuned Lancelot is because of the processes that go about building this IEM. It did not start out as a Lancelot. It started out with an 8VA 2 ESD system. They realized that they should remove two drivers in order to better hit my target curve, and that's what we got. It's a coincidence that the drivers the the number of drivers shared is the same as the Lancelot, but I cannot tell you that the drivers themselves are exactly the same because while it could be 6BA 2 ESD, that does not mean that the same type of drivers are being used in both the Lancelot and the Dawn. I cannot tell you this, but all I can tell you is that based off of the processes that have gone into tuning the Dawn, it is absolutely not just simply a retuned Lancelot. Because again, the Lancelot was never a base. The base was the Y2K-J. Now,
But
to answer the question, before the Lancelot one regarding the compromises, the reason why I had decided on a compromise was simply the fact that there is a difference between a production unit and a prototype. Now, the prototype that I made with the Y2KJ system, definitely it had better technicalities. It was overall better sounding, and I wished that they would replicate it. But I understood that they would not be able to replicate it on a, let's say, a production line. And this is a very important distinction because in terms of IEM production, a company could have tens, if not hundreds of prototypes, all of which sound amazing in their own right. But if you cannot produce it, if you cannot consistently produce it and make it, you know, make sure that the unit variation is not out of line, it does not matter. The existence of the prototype does not matter.
so what
And
you're
that
talking.
is
So what you're
oh,
telling me
sorry.
is that the reproducibility of your tuning, is that correct? Like I'm saying
Yes.
that like Fearless, they're telling you, their keyword is that they're telling you that they cannot reproduce your tuning with their standard 8+2 Y2K system. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they did not explicitly tell me this, but because they keep throwing me all these things, I assume that that's what ended up like that.
Is that more? Wouldn't that be more of an engineering problem on their part instead of your?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't
Um,
really want to throw the blame towards Fearless, but
no,
again,
nobody's saying the blame.
I had greenlit the project. I still think that the Dawn is absolutely fine. Whether or not it's good is up to the reviewers. I'm not going to review my own product because, again, conflict of interest. I get paid every single time it gets sold.
Right, and of course, and you tell me, and this is where we get into this like maybe like conspiracy theories territory. And of course, I'm not an engineering by trade, and I can't really how well they can reproduce, their own product, which is their own Y2K system. But could
Mhm.
it and you don't have to, tell me anything. You don't have to say yes or no answer to this. Quite maybe a rhetorical question, if you will. Like this is a tactic that you see a lot in business when you think about. They see a very good opportunity with you, and their end goal was always having your product as a retuned version of their old flagship, putting your name on it and forcing you to maybe compromise on maybe your beginning, the beginning of your collaboration, your beginning was to tune a Y2K system, but they always had their end goal in mind, which is just to retune their flagship and sell it under
Mhm.
your name. Is that something that you have ever considered? That is just you being,
I I
forced and
have considered
strong
it.
armed into selling this thing that you attach your name to, which you're not 100% happy with, I feel.
I have considered it, but I've said many times that I am a very pragmatic person. And in a way, sometimes I'm also a very ruthless businessman. Fearless and I have shared interests. So at the end of the day, as long as our interests are the same, I don't really care what their interests are. So if as long as we get this final product, you know, in terms of their ulterior motives of like strong arming me, because again, I was not strong enough. I greenlit the project and everything. Um,
Well, what is
if
what
they
is for
if
them
they
if you
ever
don't
had
greenlit it? What if you
if they
don't
ever
release it?
had any ulterior motives behind the scenes, I don't care because at the end of the day, the pro the product was was created successfully
Yeah,
and
but
it's
what
being
if you
sold
don't
right
greenlit
now.
it? What are they gonna do? Like they can just release it not like there's nothing you can do there, right? It's loose. You have gone through like however many months of collaborating
The
with them. At the
the
end point, as you say, end justifying the means. But at the end, they made pretty much just a variation of their flagship with your
a-
sound signature, and you
again
basically they're asking you whether or not you want to put your name on it. If you don't want to put your name on it, they can might as well release that and call it something else.
I think you're putting a bit too much stock on this being a variation of the Lancelot. I've explained again that this, based on the processes alone that went into tuning this IEM, it is absolutely not simply a variation of the Lancelot. Now, you could make the argument again that if this wasn't successful, they could just rebranded it, not put my name on it and sold it under a different name. And to that, I'd say I don't care because it's not my responsibility at that point. I was not sinking any form of R&D into this in terms of like monetary value. A lot of the R&D came from Fearless. So if they were to do it, all the power to them. But in terms of whether or not I care, I don't, because the only reason why I would care, if let's say if they were to just release something that I was not happy with and still put my name on it, at that point I would care. But if you're talking about if it's like I didn't greenlight it, if I didn't greenlight it, and then they simply just took the product, just changed the name, sold it, and without my commission, and therefore they could sell it for cheaper, I wouldn't care because no one would know that it was associated with me.
And
So it's
at
not really
that
my
point,
problem at that point, is it?
and at that point, it might actually sold a little bit better because you can actually review your own IEM, but not your IEM. So,
That's the thing, is that the Lancelot is pretty much a flop. no one really buys Lancelot. The popular one is the Roland. But in terms of the Lancelot, even though it's the flagship, for the longest time, no one actually really buys it.
Well, so they put your
So,
name on
so,
the
so, so
Lancelot, and it
if you
sold
want to make
real
the
well.
argument that without my name on it, they would sell even more, I would say that in terms of the current evidence that we have, I would say no.
Okay. And again, it's also that's speculation on a thing, but the current situation that it is released and it is the Fearless X Crinacle Dawn, and you yourself famously said that you won't review it because of conflict of interest, and I do respect you for that. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, what I feel like this is honestly a marketing disaster, so to speak, because well, without the lack of better words, the two of the most popular sci-fi reviewer won't review your IEM. What do you? Well, one being yourself, and second being the one that we probably don't want to mention here. So like, what do you think of this situation right here?
I would say the relative lack of sales with regards to the Dawn is less about the marketing and more about the current situation that we have on coronavirus.
Oh, come on.
People are not buying luxury items, that's for sure. And it's absolutely the worst time to release a product. But again, my whole point is not about the timing of the release because I expect the Dawn to be a long-standing product. I'm not relying on hype. I and honestly, I don't wish to have hype on the Dawn because that means that a lot of people are going to blind buy it, and that means a lot more disappointed people are going to emerge from the floorboards,
Oh,
and I
I
don't
don't
want
think
that.
I don't think they're going to be disappointed if they blind buy the Dawn, and that's coming from the person.
Who I mean, who knows? But at the end of the day, my point is, just because reviewers wouldn't review it, and because I wouldn't review it, does not really make it a failure straight
Right? No,
away.
I don't think so. But don't you think that the current Chi-Fi business model is to create hype to have a spike in sales and it eventually winds down
It
and
Yeah,
then the
it is.
next hype will come up, right? And that's
It
not what you wish,
it
right?
is, but then you realize that how many products that have gone through this very common chi-fi hype train are above $1,000.
A lot. As
Like
most recently, as you would point out, the V14 Art Magic, just a name off
they
the
actually
top of my
haven't
head,
sold a lot. There's a lot of hype for it, but they actually haven't
right?
sold a lot. The
Because
art magic was actually basically dead out of arrival. No one actually bought the art
but it's
magic.
supposed to be a VX killer. Come on, you're telling me that's not?
I mean, the sales numbers are one thing, the claims are another thing.
No, of course, it would just be hearsay when we speculate on the sales. But talking about Don reviews, me and my co-host and I have reviewed the Don, and I was hoping you have already watched that, maybe a discussion panel. Have you watched that?
I've skimmed through it. Yes,
Oh, you haven't watched it from the beginning to the end. That breaks my heart.
I skipped a few sections, but
Okay,
more or less I've read through it. I've sat through it for like 1.5 speed. It's
okay,
an hour. Yeah.
okay. And it's a very like is that maybe a fair assessment of of you know was it a
I would
fair review?
I would say absolutely. Like you guys more or less nailed the point of the Dawn. Is that it is while okay. Here's the thing. While a lot of points that you guys said about the Dawn being an all rounder and not a specialist, for instance, I I think you have contradicted yourselves a little bit because the Dawn is a specialist
In
in
what?
tonality.
Fine.
Yeah. So
And
yes, it's an all rounder for sure. But in terms of it's like it doesn't do anything special. I think it does the one thing special that I have contributed to, and that's the tone.
but that's your tonality, right? And I
Yeah,
have said
exactly.
this in a private
It
conversation,
is my contribution
right?
to
Right.
Fearless.
And I have said that to you privately before and maybe publicly in Discord is that um if you don't if you didn't watch and if anybody the current viewers that haven't watched that review, go watch the first episodes of the Audio Discord podcast where we're talking about Critical's Dawn and pretty much tell you how bad his IEM is in 71 minutes. Actually, it's not that bad, but I've said uh you know I've said publicly in Discord saying that everything that you can do to make the Dawn good, that is on you, which is the tonality of the IEM, and I kind of blame all the fucks ups that I'm not happy with
Yeah,
your
again,
IEM.
I'm not here to point fingers,
I'm
but
not. You're not here to point fingers, but that's how I feel. And again, you don't have to answer the question. That I feel that in terms of technicality, which people do value in 1.4K American dollars IEM, they do value some kind of technicality, and I am not happy with that. Which, but that's I'm fearless, and going back to the compromise, and you did point out that the A+2 do have a little bit better technicality, but that's just a little bit me thinking to myself, and and since and you liked and you did say that's a fair review, um, it so what now? Like we reviewed it, and I started this this Singaporean the Singapore review tour, and I think I'm sending my the Don that I have right now with me to somebody else later on. So like
mhm.
what do we take from here? Like
Let the masses speak.
right. I think
I'm not again. I'm not a fan of show reviewers. I think it's a very awkward way of promoting a product.
funny
But
how that
let
the
the
first
masses speak.
review
I'm
funny how
hmm?
the first review unit sent to a show reviewer, isn't it? But that didn't came about. That didn't end up as as well as you wanted to. So yeah, who's the big
Mhm.
name? Who's the next big name to get it?
I'm just sending it around to different people in Singapore. Whatever that they want to say. If you want to call it bad, go ahead. If they want to say it's great, go ahead. Either way, I just want regular people to listen to it, regular audiophile, and if they think it's great, I think that speaks more volumes than if a known reviewer who just says nothing but praises just says that my IM is great, because that just feels like empty words to me.
Right, but I feel like and I do commend you on that you really taken a step back into like promoting your IEM because I feel like I kind of like ask you to somehow promote our podcast when it comes to
Mm.
our review of Fearless Dawn, and you were very like uh you didn't really want to do it initially, but honestly it's our opinion, and whatever. But moving on from the Dawn, so like and as you were to point out, this is not the end goal. Like this is not the end. Like maybe if you want, maybe some shine some light into your maybe future projects that you might be working on since you have gone into this collaboration world.
Uh, my eventual goal. Okay, my point is the Dawn. Okay, my goal is that the Dawn is the price ceiling at this point. That would
Oh,
be the highest that any I would say mainstream collaboration would take me to. Now, there's gonna be I think there's just gonna be some very limited edition
are we
collaborations
going
that
to
I'm
see an
planning to do as
Elysian
well.
Crinacle hybrid? Is
But
that what
those
you're hearing me?
but those again, just like the Dawn, would be very concept works where I have full control over the tuning, and therefore that's why it's going to be extremely expensive. But for the most part, for the mainstream collaborations, 1.4K would be the highest that I would ever allow it. Because again, if a manufacturer ever asks me to collab, and then I
You don't
give
set
them
the
tuning,
price.
yeah, and then they set the price at like 1.5, 1.6 for 2000, I'll just say, you know what, you can just release this on your own. I don't
But
want
that's
my
what I
name on
wanted.
it.
But that's what I wanted. I want the A+2 Y2K that they couldn't. I don't care how much it costs. I just wanted to have better technicality, right? I don't care if it costs 2K, right? You know.
Hmm.
But that I think, don't you think that's what people wanted? Like you're famous. You're famous for this ranking list, and you have
Hmm.
not gone to yourself like you have not said this publicly, right? What I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about is this public perception, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
talked about it. Like you're releasing this IEM that you attach your name to. It's
Mm-hmm.
got to be S rank.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't want to review your own thing, and you talk about this price ceiling and all the performance stuff. And we did talk in private that the technicality standpoint, it is a compromise, and you did say the A+2 is better in technicality. Since nobody watched this podcast anyway, want to throw a rank out for your IEM? This 6 plus
No.
2? No? Give me a phone? Just like a
No.
headline, like Crin gave
No.
us no? No? Alright,
No.
very good. How about this? How about you rank your perfect child as never to be? What about the A+2? The dream IEM that how many people have heard that version of your A+2
Uh,
Y2K?
a few. Most
A
of
few.
them are in Melbourne, but yeah, a few.
Just you can probably count with your two hands, right? Probably one of it.
Yeah.
And how about that? Why don't you give that a rank? The child that's never to be. The A+2, the one that you tuned that you claim to have better resolution. What would you give that a rank if you to rank that IEM? Well, obviously,
I mean, they will just give away the rank of the current baby
oh,
that
it's
I
not.
have.
No, it's not. Why would it be? It's
So
different. It's better in
I plead the
technicality.
fifth.
Oh,
I
you
plead
plead the
the
fifth.
fifth.
Hey, how about this? Here's another conspiracy theories hour. Is that I don't think you're happy.
I am
And
not.
again,
I am absolutely not happy. And here is another conspiracy slash secret that I'm gonna share with you.
okay,
I will never be happy,
good.
regardless of what I release. Even if I do improve on the dawn and maybe with the dusk, whatever future that may hold, regardless of how good it may be, I will never be happy.
And is it and you talk about this 1.4K price ceiling, and could you tell us maybe this next project? Are you currently working on operation?
I'm working on an IEM that is a hybrid, not BAESD hybrid, but
Uh,
a DDBA hybrid, which means I'm just
okay.
going to use traditional BA tweeters because again, fuck the EST drivers and the DD that everyone wants me to use and I want to use as well. So
So so
yeah.
so you're working on another project, and just I guess you're still in like the
Well,
prototyping phase.
working on is a strong phrase. I'm actually not working on anything right now, but it
Oh, okay.
is in discussion,
Okay.
talking to
With
people about it.
Fearless. With Fearless.
With Fearless, maybe with other brands as well.
With maybe with other
The
brands.
the whole point of a collaboration is that I'm not bogged down by one
Of
manufacturer.
course, of course. So when are we going to see this uh this uh this amazing you know DD hybrid that
I
you
wouldn't again.
envision?
Regardless of what I release, I would never call it amazing. I'll never be
Fine,
happy with
fine,
it.
fine. I'm gonna
But
call it
I always strive to improve from the previous iterations.
right, right. When are we gonna see this new and improved the better version of Dawn? Do you
Who
have this
knows?
timeline? Who knows?
Who
Nobody knows.
knows? I
As long as
I
you're
I don't even know. But ideally, I just want the Dawn to marinate a bit. Just let
okay.
it exist, sit in its own juices for a while,
Right,
and
you don't
then
want to kill your own IEM with your new release.
no,
It
no,
sounds
it's
right.
it's it's more like I want people to understand what my ideals for tonality is
Okay, and that's
first.
fair, and that's fair.
Whereas if I start rapid fire throwing out product after product, I think the message should be lost on a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. But I really don't care about your Fearless collab. Of course, they're very good. Looking for that retuned version of a VX called the QDC Crinacle. You can call
Why
it
would I
whatever you want.
retune a VX? There's no DD in there.
I'm sure QDC can force you to compromise and just sell you a retuned VX and sell it for
What fix a
$2,400.
fusion? I can't even fix that monstrosity of an IEM.
Wow, that is one. Why don't we move on to this collaboration topic, and to another thing that I kind of I see a trend of, and and as I said in the first podcast that I got, I became aware of you. I became maybe to put in a very good word. I became a fan of your work. When you know when somebody first linked me your ranking list, and I see that
Mm-hmm.
Gemini was ranked S, which was the highest tier and still the highest tier. Then Gemini is still in S rank right now, and obviously I don't have my Gemini anymore. I have the other S
Mm-hmm.
tier rank, the VX. And that's how I got it started, and then I followed you ever since. And I feel like, and I kind of still read a lot of articles from here and there, and you do write a lot of interesting stuff. But I can't help to feel that there is this transition in this writing style, and you yourself famous for this brutally honest review about
Mm-hmm.
price is no object. My ranking list is only for performance. Now you yourself
Mm-hmm.
have not gone out and said this, and this is all public perception. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't help to feel that you and your increasing volume of review of these bottom of the barrel garbage chi-fi is watering down the content of your website.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't read any of that nonsense that you have to put out the $50 chi-fi that you just recently
Mm-hmm.
put out on the $30 wireless KZ headphones that I don't give a shit about.
Mm-hmm.
Like what do you say to that? Like these things are really just not what your old followers are known you for these like
Mm-hmm.
spicy critical kilobucks IEM reviews. Like now that you're just
Mm-hmm.
like became this run of the mill like what do you
Mm-hmm.
say to that?
Uh, I know in the beginning, like when I started the ranking list, and even when I started the measurements database, uh, there was a lot of selection bias with regards to the IMs that I initially picked to rank and review. And the IMs that I picked were more often than not the really, really expensive ones because these were the most interesting to me at the time. So I can kind of understand that for earlier fans of my work, they would have begun to see me. They initially saw me as like the high end reviewer, the reviewer that mainly dabbles in Summit Fi. But the problem with that is that again, I have said this word and I'll say it again. It is selection bias. I began with high end audio because it was the most interesting to me at the time. But as you, but that was not the point of my work. The point of my work was to encapsulate the whole IEM market. So again, the my tagline is if it's not on the list, it doesn't exist. It's it's meant to be a tongue-in-cheek kind of joke, It obviously not every single IEM or headphone are on my lists, but that is my eventual goal. I want to listen to everything. I want to be able to point to something, point to an IEM, and be like, "Hey, I've listened to that. I can immediately give you an impression of it right now." And I think that's what again you said that this sentiment was not yours, and it's something that's public perception. And to that I say screw public perception. I don't control what the public perceives of me. I don't control the expectations that are burdened upon me. I just do my own thing. And my own thing, again, is to listen to everything that's out there. And everything that's out there, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, is going to involve the cheap shit. And it may piss off some of my older audiences who are much more used to spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on an IEM. But from my own goals, my own expectations that I have set for myself, that is what I want to do. That is what I think I have to do because not everyone is going to exist in this Summit Fi range of like knowing what you want, knowing knowing the sound that you want to buy, and therefore being able to just throw out multiple thousands of dollars just to get something that you like to listen to.
And just to go off on that question, and it's not like to say that you don't release these high end reviews, but like the you know, last review that I care about, that I actually sat down and read, is
Mhm.
that your Viento review, which is like the revisit of the Viento, and I remember is the Elysian rundown where you gave the Dio the S rank, but you didn't put on your ranking list for obvious reasons. And if people want to go read that, they can. And but those things are really like few and far between, right? But and and
Yes.
and and you do get a lot more of these run of the mill, everyday chi-fi IEM more often than not, because you do have, a sponsor who's
I
willing to send you
I-
those
I'll
things.
I'll interject here.
Go ahead.
It's not necessarily the reason. The reason is not necessarily because I get more run of the mill chi-fi. It's simply for the fact that in the high end market, releases don't happen that often.
The Hydration Violet, which Pencil loves, that you didn't review. Have you heard of it?
I was about to write a cliff notes on that, but slipped my mind
Is
as
that a
with
spoiler?
every other high end IM. But again,
And
because I
that's
don't
that's a
own
good
it,
point. Isn't that a
yeah,
good
and
point?
again, because I don't own it, because I don't have a review of it, I'm not really obligated to write anything about
Right,
it,
but
and
you
therefore
feel
it's just
obligated.
put
You
down.
you feel obligated to review these because these are review units. Said like these are review
Yeah,
units sent to you for a reason that you have to review. And now
that's
here's the
correct.
the other point. Again, not something that you have said yourself. That's something that I feel, or maybe many others share the sentiment of that. You know, when it comes to these run-of-the-mill chi-fi IEMs that you're reviewing, I can't help to feel that you really lost the critical edge. What I mean by that is that the hypercritical edginess that people love you for, back in your days. And now that you're just reviewing this run-of-the-mill IEMs, you're using commonly more and more modern. You can't do. You keep on justifying the flaws of these IEMs with their price point, but you yourself are famously for saying price is no object. If this IEM is bad, I'm going to call it bad. But you are,
Mhm,
but then that's you back in the day. But you now is saying that,
mhm,
oh, I guess this is good for its price. That's never the language that wouldn't have used, before
mhm.
you had review units sent to you. Is that something that you can explain to me on?
All right. So my question back to you is, on my ranking list, what do you think the word bad describes? Like which tier would that
Anything
be?
that's not S. There you go. I've
Yeah,
said it.
so at that point, you're gonna expect me to say bad things about A tier, say bad things about B tier, say bad things about C, D, E,
I'm
F
expecting you to say the same thing that you have
for
said.
for every single thing. So
Yes.
the point that I'm trying to make here is that the word of the day here is the grand scheme of things. In the grand scheme of things, there's going to be a lot of average things. Now, you might retort and say that no, there's going to be a lot of garbage things. Well, then we have to shift down what it means to be average. And maybe average now means garbage. The way that I see it, average just means, nothing is special.
Are
It's
you
not bad.
shifting
It's not
perspective
really
then?
good. It's like, it's just,
Are you?
and to me, that is C. That is the C grade. And again, C grade encapsulates many multiple price points. It could be like cheap shit $5 IEMs. It could go all the way up to multi kilobaht items. The whole point is to see where the price point is. It could be C, and it could be $20. And at that point, C is all right. It justifies that $20 being used as, let's say, a beta IEM. It's all right. No, it's like it's not great. It's not bad. It's middle, right in the middle. You would not buy it for sound quality, but if you really had to, it does not sound like shit.
Right.
That's the whole point of C tier.
Fine.
Now, if you took this $20 IEM and suddenly made it $2,000, at that point my language changes. My language changes to this thing is a piece of shit. Why would you buy this for $2,000? There are things that are $5 that you could buy that would sound just as good as this IEM. my language changes with the price points. I
So
think I think that's the way that you should approach reviews as well. I don't
okay.
think that and I've never promoted the idea that you should, treat everything in the absence of price points, because price is a very, very important factor in this hobby.
Well, no, it
People
isn't.
look for the best value. People are going to look, for a budget. That's the whole point of a hobby that is heavily, heavily steeped in the concept of purchasing something.
No, as I
So
famously said, diminishing returns are only for poor people. But
yeah,
you go on.
so you have your own concepts of what your minimum spending of an IM is, because you already know that at some point, IMs are going to be as good. The performance of an IM is going to be at a level at a certain price point. But for a lot of people, the price points might be lower. They might only have $100 to throw around, and therefore they will look at my list, and then they will see, or not just my list, but my reviews, and see whether or not the $100 that they're about to spend on an IEM is justified. And at that point, my language has to cater to people who are spending that $100. My language is never about the people who already have a budget 10 times that of the existing retail price. No, that's not how reviews work. The reviews are, let's say you have $100 to spend. This IM's $100. Should you buy this or not? My reviews never consider the people who either have $50 to spend, because again, the $100 IM will be overpriced, beyond your budget, and does not consider people who have $1,000 budget, because at that point you would have a much bigger selection. And of course, $100 IM is going to be shit, unless of course maybe by some miracle it's a giant killer. But who knows?
Oh, you love to use that. That's the Chi-Fi trigger word, giant killer.
Exactly.
I don't like to use that word.
I've met very few giant killers. Some of them you could see on my list. I'm not going to explicitly say what they are, but they are on my list.
I will. And that kind of goes into my next question, right? And you have said that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your ranking list is somewhat separated from your reviews, because your ranking list is a money no object ranking list, but your review is more catered towards the people with that budget. Is that correct?
I would say not really, because again, in the ranking list, there might be a language used, which is in the comments, but for the most part, it's simply a list arranged in descending order. Whereas in a review, there is language going to be used. There's going to be a lot of different interpretations in which you're going to read my review and going to think like, oh, what is Crin saying this time? Or
what I'm saying when he
said this thing. Yeah?
What I'm saying is that you take the value more into account when you review an IEM. Is that true? And value is no object when it comes to your ranking.
That's not true. There's a value rating now.
Right, but for the letter ranking list, nobody cares about the freaking stars, right?
The letter ranking list would be more or less money no object.
Right.
Like if you have $10,000, what would be the best IEM? Right. Well, just look at S tier.
Right, and famously on your S tier ranking list, they are all for a while $1,000+ IEMs. And what I want to go on that is that in your reviews, and I like to touch up on, and you're saying yourself, it's kind of a separate thing between your review and your ranking list, because you take the value into mind, and I am obviously contractually obligated to hate every single Chi-Fi that's not QE. You wrote in your and you yourself said that you're not going to point out these giant killers. In your Moondrop SA review, you yourself are saying that this is the sub $1,000 IEM. Would that be the language you were using before you, like back in the day, for the old Crin that we love, the spicy, edgy Crin? Would that be the same language that the old Crin would use, or is it just the Crin that we're using right now?
I've said that for the Viento, so I don't think I'm being. I'm not. I don't think I've been.
Oh, but that's your old love. That's your old love. That's different.
You were referring to me as the old Crin, so obviously I'm going to refer to my old loves.
Of course, but what about this one? But that one wasn't China. That was in Korea, and
Now you're shifting the goalposts.
that's not the goalpost here. But I'm saying they released the SA. What is it? $700 right now. You call it
Hmm.
the best IEM under $1,000, and that would
Hmm.
not be the language that you will be using because you yourself told me in a conversation that you try to avoid using these like.
Again, I think you need to look at the context in which I said that it's the best sub $1,000. You have to look at the review. I've in the S8 review, I have been very explicit on the multiple flaws. And then even after I've said that it's the best, sorry, before I've said that it was the best sub 1000. Again, I don't have the review up with me right now. I'm just
I
relying
do.
everything off of my memory. Okay, I believe I've said that a lot of different disclaimers about you should make sure that this is for you and everything. And then after that, all right, if it's for you, then it's the best sub $1,000.
So my question is, have you gone soft and losing your edge, or has Trify have getting better?
Driver has absolutely gotten better,
Oh,
especially for a company like Moondrop,
okay.
because for the longest time, I believe I have mentioned this in the essay review as well. For the longest time, Chi-Fi had lacked in one very crucial thing, and that's tuning. They have the production processes. They absolutely know how to make a cheap IEM, but they're just throwing spaghetti on the wall. They
Well,
just don't
I would call it
they
shit
don't know
work,
what the
right?
hell is going on. They're just waiting for that spaghetti strand to stick, and it's like, all right, there we go. That's the IM that we're gonna get. But for the most part, that is the reason why you have gotten so much garbage Chi-Fi for years and years, because a lot of these sound engineers, well, I use it like very, very in like quotation marks because I don't know what they're doing. A lot of these sound engineers, they don't know how to tune an IEM. And then comes Moondrop. And then they don't I don't know if they know how to tune an IAM because most of them have referred to the Harman target for a good chunk of their life. And the moment they have this blueprint for what is quote unquote good sound, and they can make it for cheap, that is when Moondrop started to gain a lot of traction. They gained traction with the Canas Pro at the start. You might argue that they gained traction with the Blessing one, and then it just went bananas from there. Like people was now referring to Moondrop as the Chi-Fi company that everyone should look up to because they have a
I find
great
that
$100
hilarious.
IM. Yeah, they have a
I
great
find that hilarious
$600
because
IM.
I know you're not familiar with the Chinese market, and you yourself is mainly your audience are in North America and in Europe is the
Mm-hmm.
fact that seemingly you are pretty much like maybe the American market, the Chi-Fi hypes that we don't really
Mm-hmm.
hear in China domestically. Now, if you don't know, I do travel
Mm-hmm.
between the States and China, and I am
Mm-hmm.
somewhat involved with the Chinese IEM community. And Moondrop is obviously something that the Chinese people would love, but for a very different reason, as you might guess. And are they that good, or is it just the lack of availability that for the American uh, for your American, like is SA really that good?
Again, I don't know what the Chinese market believes, and different markets have their own opinions. Again, I don't. I know what the Japanese market likes. I don't agree with what the Japanese market likes because I think that the way that they approach the audiophile hobby is very flawed. But that's a separate topic for a different time.
All right,
As far as what markets like, I don't care.
right.
It's their problem.
And I liked how you said that Moondrop really uh uh established themselves as the Chi-Fi company to be
Well, whenever I speak, it's mostly
right,
in the context of
right,
the Western market because that's
right,
what
of
where
course,
I operate in.
right, of
I
course.
definitely don't have a presence in China. I don't have a
And
presence in
yeah, yeah,
Japan.
and I do agree with you. So why don't we go on our a little ad? This podcast is sponsored by QDC, obviously the best, the superior Chi-Fi brand that's out there. And obviously this again, we're not sponsoring by QDC, and that was an awful joke. But QDC, if you're
But
listening,
But
Your
just
response.
to touch on QDC, wasn't it true that the Chinese market actually hates QDC?
They do.
Yeah,
They do.
exactly. So you could make the same argument like, oh, the Chinese market hates QDC. They're our own people, so therefore QDC isn't that great.
And I do love it as as more of this duality in terms of involving India
Yeah.
and
I I will make a small comment is that for most companies, for most brands, their own countrymen would hate them.
well, except for
It's
Americans.
no, no, even for Americans, you see people going for Chi-Fi now, huh?
Oh well, but they love Campfire. There's not we can skip that hot
Oh
take.
yeah, for I guess Campfire is kind of like a patriotic thing for them as well.
Oh, of course, and we do also love 64. Yeah, again, and you don't really have a. Oh, well, I guess you do, but let's skip that. Going back to QDC, and you did mention Moondrop, and I think it's funny that you say Moondrop is the Chi-Fi to be, and funny enough, in your own S tier range is that are the three I how many IMs in your S tier range? Not the S minus
Mhm.
because that's for losers. So what? How many
The,
IMs?
the the reason why I didn't bring QDC into the conversation of the Chi-Fi company to be is because they have a remarkable absence in the budget market.
Well,
So
they do, but there's just
so
for
if you're talking about volume sold, if you're talking about the influence that QDC has on the audiophile community as a whole, they actually don't because again they don't have anything in a budget range that could that people know what QDC actually is. Whereas with Moondrop, they have the cheap shit, they have the expensive shit, they have a lot of these things that would allow different people from differing budgets to get their products. And I would say that Moondrop would be one of the companies that had led to the Harman Target being extremely mainstream.
and
That
and
is
and
that is their influence on the community. Again, the argument that this thing is bad, Harmon being mainstream is bad. That's a separate topic.
I
But in
don't
terms
care
of
about
the
that.
yeah, yeah. But in terms of the influence that Moondrop has on the community, it's miles and miles ahead that of QDC. Not
No
because QDC is
explanation.
a bad company, but because QDC does not have the sheer sales volume that allows them to influence a massive amount of
Of
people.
course not. And nobody's going to argue about whether or not you get how many sell compare, to SA because that's no comparison, even within your own ranking list. And then just let me ask you a simple question that you didn't answer. How many IMs are in your S tier right now, just excluding the S minus?
Five.
Well, I mean, of course, obviously
I
five
mean,
is true.
excluding like again, I believe
There's
that
like
the
this caveat,
NSL, the
right?
Gemini, and the Anole VX are
So there
basically
are
similar sounding.
technically seven IEMs in your ranking list in S tier, and three of them are from the same company. So just give me a yes or no question: QDC best Chi-Fi company or the best Chi-Fi company?
Yes.
Good, thank you. And I think is there anything else you want to touch up on that I haven't asked? I always like to end it with that QDC joke. Um, is it something else
I
that you
don't
want to
know.
talk to me about?
Any more hard hitting questions that you have for me?
I think I gave you a hard enough time for things, so maybe I hope.
Really, I felt that there was quite a lot of softballs before
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm pulling my punches because I'm influencing by your. Maybe I'm influencing, by your presence, just like that. You're influenced by Chi-Fi. It's not a thing. Anthony, you can cut the podcast. I think this is it. Let's end it on a good note.